Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special episode of the React Podcast, episode 14. Yeah, well, I almost made a mistake right there. I have two guests with me today to discuss Nintendo's big news. First and foremost, we have Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Jake?
I'm doing good, man. How you been? Everybody seems like they got no sleep last night.
Well, I'm not sure why this is. There wasn't nothing major that happened last night, so hey, I'm not sure. But we also have Mr. Anthony Nash. How's it going, Anthony?
What's up, everybody?
Hey, we're taking it easy. So, from what I understand, everybody knows by now. Nintendo made some announcements. I woke up to this news this morning, and I was rather surprised when I heard the announcement. So, there were two main things that they announced. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the mobile announcement. They're supposedly going to be going mobile with a lot of their games with a company called, is it DeNA?
Yeah, it's pronounced DNA.
Okay, so I'd like to ask you guys what you think about this venture. That I'll give my thoughts on it. So whoever wants to go first.
Go ahead, Nash.
I mean, we knew Nintendo was probably looking for a way to jump into the. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. So we knew Nintendo was looking to sort of jump into like the mobile games sort of space, and we were wondering how they were about to do that. And this partnership, it seems like it benefits both parties. Nintendo's letting DNA use their intellectual properties to create games, and I guess Nintendo's hope for this is that they're going to drive customers to buying the Wii U and the 3DS, and as we'll discuss later, whatever their next console is going to be.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it for a long time now. Not only is everybody, but I think they've kind of expressed like little things here and there. Especially Iwata, though. Only he's been a little more on the antagonistic side of it about jumping into that market or at least gauging it to kind of expand, not only their business but expand their horizons a bit. What's interesting to take out of this is that because when they're going into the mobile space with that and they're partnering up with DNA, one of the things that they explicitly said during the business meeting that they had, the big press conference over in Japan, is that most of it's going to be an emphasis on original experiences. And a lot of people, especially today, I know I saw on Twitter, Andre Renee was questioning, like, okay, why is it that they won't, it's good to have those original experiences, but they're leaving a lot of money on the table porting over older NES or Super NES games, which is interesting. I think that maybe they have another strategy with that, and also keep in mind, a lot of those stuff are also on the Nintendo 3DS on the eShop, so maybe that has something to do with it. But it is a good point to note that we're going to get a lot of original experiences between all the Nintendo IPs, all their mascots and their characters and stuff, plus whatever they're going to develop with DNA, which I think is the more interesting aspect of it.
So they are developing original content specifically for mobile.
That's the emphasis, yeah. At least that's what they're saying. That's what Iwata specifically said, like during the press conference when he was asked about it.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to be trying to create new experiences on the mobile games. I mean, I don't know. I would bet, if I had to bet, I would bet that they will eventually remake games for it, but I think either maybe they don't want to be known as somebody that's just throwing out remakes of games on mobile and focus on maybe creating some new stuff.
I mean, that's the thing, though, and like ideally, you would think, and I think that's also something that what they said is that they don't want to, get into the kind of thing about rehashing a lot of their old games, which Nintendo has done for like the longest time anyway. But it's just interesting to note that like that's the emphasis that they're taking specifically with this partnership, and they were very implicit about it. So it'd be very cool to obviously get those original experiences that are going to be developed for the mobile platforms, which is very, very cool. But also to see what other original ideas and experiences they could come up with using the different Nintendo properties. I kept saying before, like when this news broke out, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe down the line we see like a Mario Maker smaller version on iPad or any sort of like tablet device that isn't the Wii U.
Well, yeah. I mean, I personally think that this is a good direction for them. I thought when people were saying that they were going mobile in the past or they were suggesting they could be making more money, I thought that this is something that they should have been doing. So glad to see that they are trying something different. Although it does lead me to question, you know, will this impact the 3DS in any way, shape, or form? Because I mean, I think the 3DS has a ton of momentum, especially because the NPDs this past month and the fact that they just sold new hardware with the new 3DS. So I'll be very intrigued to see if it is going to impact that negatively or
Honestly,
positively.
I was going to say, honestly, I don't think so. I think this much more affects Japan than it does here on the West. Because keep in mind, there's a very, very, very big movement with a lot of mobile devices, tablet gaming, gaming on your phones and stuff. That's in Japan. That's arguably, the argument can be made that's a little bit much more bigger there than it is here in the United States or in North America. But I really think that that's where that is going to have the most impact. Here, you might see stuff, and I'm pretty sure like Nintendo's coming up with some ways to kind of implement, their mobile strategy, in other places out west as well as in Europe and such. But I think that's where more of the concentration of more of the interesting and crazier stuff is going to happen, rather than here in the United States.
Yeah, I
I don't
don't
think it's going to
think.
affect the 3DS as much.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect the 3DS. I think what they want to accomplish with this is getting people to go from mobile gaming back to the 3DS, back to Nintendo's system. And I mean, I don't know how they're going to accomplish that, but I know that that's in their press release. They were hopeful, or even in the press conference, they were hopeful that they kind of created like a big ecosystem of games with the mobile games, the Wii U and the 3DS. So I think their goal is to bring people back to portable gaming instead of keeping them on their cell phones.
If anything, also, you know what I really want to see them do with this, outside of just the creating the games aspect of it, give us a little bit much more of a more diverse, take on Miiverse. Very much in a similar vein, like how Xbox Live or PSN is kind of gauged into the mobile device area, where you're able to get and see your trophies or all the different stuff related to PlayStation or Xbox Live on your phone device and such. I want to see that for Nintendo, but obviously done in a different way, because obviously there's no like achievement or like reward system for Nintendo. Now they did mention that they're definitely going to implement some new stuff with their new type of like rewards program that may have some big significance to do with like everything that's going on that they announced and such. Hopefully we see something. Obviously, maybe not going into E3 now this year. Maybe as we get into the next year, we get a little bit much more fleshed out details about how that could actually be implemented into this.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, perhaps we definitely will hear more about this. I don't see why they can't talk about some of this at this upcoming E3, but we'll see. But let's get to the major other issue with today's announcement, or the real huge announcement, is the fact that Nintendo openly admitted that they are now working on a new console. They did not specify what type of hardware this is they're working on. They just said they are working on new hardware, and they are going to be giving more news on it, I guess, at E3 next year. So, because I know you guys saw the press conference, please do feel free to enlighten me as to what all else they said about this hardware.
Well, basically, it's interesting to know too how Iwata went about kind of like delivering this news and why specifically. I read a couple articles in different outlets, kind of like speculating and kind of detailing everything that went down with the press conference. And there obviously is no details about the new system. It's called codenamed NX, which could be inferred to mean anything at this point. For all we know, it could be the Nintendo Extreme, which would sound actually pretty cool, or the Nintendo 10 or something. But really, the timing of it, the announcement, and also the way that he's kind of like divulged the information and what he said specifically is that we have no details for it now, but hopefully next year we could tell you a little bit much more about it. Now, a lot of people have been inferring from that maybe next year E3 as a reveal, maybe more details and maybe show the system, hopefully in a better vein and a better light than what they did with the Wii U. So that way the message isn't as confusing. If not, maybe TGS and such as far as timing is concerned. But what's really more significant and what's interesting about this is that I feel like, and a couple places have kind of alluded to this, that Iwata had to choose the lesser of two evils and had to kind of pick his poison because the ramifications of coming out and making, a statement like this, that they're already developing new hardware. You're either, one, dealing with the stuff with the mobile environment, which people have been saying for a long time that Nintendo should be getting into, and that should signal the end of their involvement with true dedicated gaming consoles or gaming systems or just stuff approached towards gaming, or do you kind of doom the Wii U? Because now, myself as well as I'm pretty sure a lot of other people out there that maybe, whether they're well informed or not about this news, now you can't shake the feeling that now my Wii U is on borrowed time. Now, granted, whatever this new console is not going to come out within the next year or two. I really don't think so. We're probably not going to get this console, whatever it is, probably in the next 3 to 4 years, hopefully, God willing. But now I know that there's only so much more time left I'm going to be spending with my Wii U, which is also going to, in turn, also affect the way that developers, game developers and different publishers are going to react to this, because they also probably know, okay, so maybe it's a good idea to maybe wait on developing games for the Wii U, if not put so much emphasis on it on the Wii U, and actually instead wait to see what other hardware Nintendo's been working on, what they're going to bring to the table, which can mean we might not get as many third party, even though we already at this point don't have a lot of third party support for the Wii U, but this is kind of already kind of not really confirming it, but kind of puts that damper on it. So I feel like now my Wii U's on borrowed time.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think the main reason that he announced it, like you said, was to sort of make sure that people knew that they weren't giving up on consoles. They were just sort of just trying to focus on a different market that they hadn't been a part of. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see what's going on with the Wii U. I mean, Nintendo's usually pretty good with backwards compatibility, but like you said, I mean, the Wii U's definitely on borrowed time. I don't think anybody didn't think that it was. I mean, with the sales that they're doing, their sales are pretty iffy compared to the PS4 and the Xbox One. So I'm not surprised that they're working on a new console. I'm more surprised that they announced that they were developing a new console, because that's usually something you want to do. Maybe you want to save it for an E3 or a big Nintendo Direct or something. But it's surprising that they just did it nonchalantly.
I think no matter what they did, they painted themselves into this corner. I feel like they couldn't really kind of come out of it any other way, as far as being super positive, because again, there's been a lot of criticism about how the way that they've handled Wii U, as well as both from developers and from consumers especially, in a number of regards. But it's just, again, nonchalantly just saying hey, we're kind of doing this. And I'm pretty sure there was a lot of discussion, internal discussion amongst them, especially with Iwata, about doing something like that. Because I feel like if he didn't come out and say that, then, there'd be a totally different conversation about, what Nintendo's general direction is going to be, or which kind of way that they're going. So no matter what they did at this point, I feel like, this is like almost softening the blow a little bit. Now, hopefully going into this year's E3 and into the next year's E3, where hopefully he says we're probably going to get more details about what they've been developing, which could mean anything. They could just tell us okay, they're not going to give us any specs or anything, but just tell us what their new ambitions or new ideas, which is another weird statement coming from them, because it could be just so openly ended, interpreted like that. The last time they told us new ideas with the console, we ended up getting the Wii and the Wii U with with the tablet controller, which turned into what we're at now. So it's going to be a very, very weird kind of funny and somewhat curious kind of way going forward now after this.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't really particularly know exactly what the platform is going to be. I mean, they just said it was a dedicated platform. So, knowing Nintendo, it could end up being another 3DS type system or something. Hopefully it's a new console, and hopefully they move out of the gimmicky sort of gameplay mechanics. But I guess we'll see in next year whenever we get information.
That's what I mean, though. It's just using that specific wording. This is, especially when you're watching the press conference and the interpreters, the way that they're talking and just saying what Iwata is divulging to the audience. New ideas, which is, I think they said it a couple times. Which that's what I think kind of worries me a little bit. It's okay, really clearly, okay, with the Wii and the Wii, you've already done new ideas with motion control, and then again the tablet gaming, and just the way that whole went down. I think maybe, it's, in my personal opinion, I'm pretty sure with a lot of other people, it's best to kind of go back a little bit much more in a traditional sense of just making a great console rather than just trying to innovate. this time around. Hopefully whatever they're doing is going to work, and whatever they're going to do is going to be special and such. But I feel just at this point with that wording and the way that they've kind of gone about through this press conference, that's what's got me a little uneasy.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you both pretty much answered the question that I was gonna ask, because I was gonna ask, well, someone who doesn't have a Wii U, why should they buy one now when they know that Nintendo is working on something else?
I mean,
And that's the thing. That's the thing that I feel like no matter what they did, that type of reaction I feel like is the lesser of two evils. But like it was the better choice and just the lesser blunt attack,
Yeah.
blunt moves to go through.
I mean, I would put a lot of money on betting that it's a new home console and not a new handheld, just because I mean they're dominating the market. They're dominating the market with the 3DS and the new 3DS and all that. So I would say that the smart choice would be that we don't know exactly what it is yet. So maybe you still want to buy a Wii U to play like The Legend of Zelda and all these other great games that are on the system. But you're definitely right that if it's a new console, then there's very little reason to start investing in like a whole catalog of games if you haven't already.
See, what I think is that they are banking on that. I believe it is a home console, but where I see the issue here is that yeah, I know they want people to still buy stuff for the Wii U, but to me now, this is a situation that can be very much like the 3DS, where they decided to release a new 3DS there are certain games you'll be able to play on that you can't necessarily play on the old 3DS. There'll be certain features that'll be different. But again, releasing other hardware, newer hardware to get people to want to get a 3DS. Whereas this situation, it'll be the same thing. They will find a reason for you to have this new console, whatever it is. So,
and you know something that's really interesting? I'm sorry to interrupt, but like that we shouldn't mention. I think it was very smart of them in some regard to make it clear that the announcement and the news about them diving into the mobile market and how they're going to approach that is completely different than what the new console is going to be or whatever they're developing for the new console. Because keep in mind, with that and the time of it, some people might infer maybe whatever type of like approach or like network that they're doing with the mobile market might be implemented into it or have something to do with whatever the new console is going to be. But I think it was smart of them to kind of make it very clear that the two are kind of separate, even though they kind of did look a little bit silly when one of the guys in the press asked them, like, why even mention that now then? At this point, but it was good to kind of cover themselves a little bit, because then I think that's a question that's going to come up later on. Is like, okay, with what you're doing in the mobile market and the way that you're kind of approaching that with DeNA, is that type of thing going to maybe turn into something like a bigger Nintendo network or Miiverse type of thing for your new console, and then across all your platforms at that point?
Right, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest worry was just making sure everybody knew that they weren't like jumping out of the console race or like just jumping out of the production of consoles, because I'm sure if they just came out and announced that they were doing mobile games, a lot of people would assume that maybe they were, weaning themselves off of consoles or stuff, and I think Iwata just wanted to let everybody know, like, no, we're still here, we're still making consoles, we have one right now, but like you're not going to know about it until next year.
so
Even though you're knowing about it now, which is funny.
So are you basically? Would you say now that they're getting current and up to date with the times, or are they still out of touch with their philosophy and the way that they go about handling business?
I mean, jumping into the mobile market, they're pretty late to that. They're pretty late to the party there, but I guess it's better late than never. I mean, it's good that they're not. I'm happy that they're not just remaking games, because they could have just done that and that would have been good. But to give another company like access to like all of your characters shows that maybe they're willing to like sort of break out and say, okay, now everybody can play with our characters and make games for them.
Yeah, it's about time they got out of the Philips mentality, because that was one of the reasons why for such a long time Nintendo never really kind of allowed like other companies or just really kind of explore the idea of making their characters branch out and stuff, because of what happened with Philips, with the CDI all the way back then. It's great that now hopefully that's changing.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. Overall, very interesting news, but again, I don't think I would have made that particular announcement today, that console announcement, because now that's what everybody will take away most from the conference. That's the main focus that they're going to be talking about now, and it'll be interesting to see how this impacts the Wii U, if at all. I'm pretty sure it will, though. But we'll see. Do you guys have any final thoughts? I'll let you go first, Jake.
I guess I could say number one, E3 is set now. Now everybody's like, okay, now we gotta go to E3 next year. Not just this year, but like next year, because this is what I think is going to be a really big thing that people are going to be curious about. Besides whatever else the other guys are going to do, but at least we know, hopefully, going into the following year, what that deal is. And I also hope that whatever they decide to do with the mobile market, I hope that they don't just keep it exclusive or really concentrated in Japan. I definitely want to see them kind of flex their muscles with the mobile market here in the States, because I'm pretty sure there's plenty of Nintendo fans and Nintendo enthusiasts that would love to not only appreciate, show their appreciation for their fandom, but also want to see them grow and succeed in a bigger light, so that way they could kind of, grow as a company and do much more bigger and better things here, overall in the States. So it's going to be an interesting time over the next year or so. Can't wait.
How about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I mean, since there's nothing but speculation going on for the console right now, I don't want to get too excited for it, but I'm really interested in seeing what the mobile games they come out with are going to look like. And I'm really interested in, we didn't really touch on it, but DeNA is also working on a membership system for Nintendo. So I guess like the successor to Club Nintendo. So I'm really interested in seeing what that's like, and that's supposed to be integrated with their next console also. So it's I'm really excited to see how more than the mobile games. I'm really excited to see what the next membership thing they're going to offer is.
Yeah, I didn't know about that little detail. We'll have to see about that. Well, my only thing that I would say is that very interesting announcements today. I give Nintendo props for making the announcement about going mobile. I can't wait to play Flappy Bird featuring Mario and every other Nintendo character in it. And look forward to seeing what happens with this new console. Like I said before, not really sure how this is going to impact the Wii U, but I know as someone who doesn't have a Wii U now, well, now I'm a little less inclined to say I would buy one if I know that they're working on something else that could end up being better than what the Wii U is right now. So we have to wait and see. You don't want to jump to conclusions, but in my mind, yeah, I fully believe this is a home console. So we'll see what happens. Wait for the official word. But that's pretty much all. That pretty much concludes our little quick React podcast for today. We'll definitely have more to say about this on the upcoming co-op and throwdown. I'm certain of that. So stay tuned for those episodes later this week and next week. And that pretty much sums it. So hope you all have a great day. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Later, peoples.
See you later, everybody.